right now, if you're the Democrat Party, how can you look at this and say, yeah, there's nothing wrong here? I mean, the recent polling has Kemp up by like 4 to 5 points, up by 7. What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American, back again with a new video, and Democrats are in big trouble in the state of Georgia. And I know we've talked quite a bit lately about the Senate race because, well, let's be honest, if Republicans win the Georgia Senate race in 2026, Democrats at that point would have no pathway to the Senate majority, not just for 2026, but potentially for like 10 to 15 years, because at that point, Republicans would have like 54 or 55 in the Senate, and Democrats would have to have basically a miracle to even get back to 50-50 within the next decade. So that's why the Georgia Senate race is a big deal for both sides, and well, Democrats keep getting terrible news basically daily at this point. Now, before we continue, don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends, and of course, join the channel today. These are all great ways to support the daily content, but enough of the promotional stuff. Let's continue because this is awful for Dems. Like, there's no other way to put it other than a complete disaster. Just look at this headline for the New York Times, and this is real, by the way. This is not from the Babylon Bee. This is not from some far-right news outlet. This is from the New York Times. Georgia's first Jewish senator is losing Jewish support. Yeah, this is a real headline. At first, I thought it was fake. I really thought that this was a parody. It was fake. Like, I thought to myself, there's no way this is real. It turns out, no. This was a real report from the New York Times. 4 years ago, Senator Jon Ossoff was sworn in using a book of Hebrew scripture as he proudly became Georgia's first Jewish senator. Now, some of his fellow Jewish Democrats have not only turned on him, they are also encouraging the most formidable Republican who could challenge him in next year's marquee Senate race, Governor Brian Kemp, to do just that. Yeah, so it's not just, oh, they want to get rid of Jon Ossoff for the primary or whatever. No, Jewish Democrats are saying, oh, hell no, enough with this bozo. Hey, Brian Kemp, who's a Republican, by the way. He is the Republican governor of Georgia, and quite frankly, the best candidate Republicans could run. I mean, this guy would win by like 4 to 5 points at a bare minimum. And Jewish Democrats, they were saying, hey, Kemp, run for the Senate seat. We will support you. This is a big deal because it shows that Jon Ossoff has a huge problem. And I would argue that this really vindicates what happened in 2020 and 2021 as a complete fluke. For those that had lived under a rock, back in 2021, Jon Ossoff barely beat David Perdue in the runoff. It was very close. It came down to like 50,000 votes. And if I'm being honest, it should have never went to a runoff in the first place because David Perdue got like 49.8%. It was very close to 50.1, but the Libertarian, yes, it was a Libertarian, took just enough votes away from David Perdue to force this runoff, which caused him to lose. David Perdue lost the Senate race because he was forced into a runoff and Jon Ossoff barely won. Plus, you had Mitch McConnell screwing the Republicans over. It was everyone knows by now what happened. It was a complete shit show. But either way, David Perdue barely lost. This is how Jon Ossoff won. And it was clear it was a fluke. Now, Democrats, they were claiming, oh, Jon Ossoff is the new Obama. He is the second coming of Barack Obama. They really thought that. They really pushed that for a year. In 2021 and 2022, they were claiming Jon Ossoff is the next Obama. He's going to win a future presidential election in a landslide. It's all over for the GOP. But now, not only is that not true, I mean, Jon Ossoff is at best a random backbencher. No one cares about him. Now, seriously, when was the last time you heard anything from Jon Ossoff? I don't remember. So not only is he overrated, but now it's clear that this was a fluke, and now he is losing a core vote for him. Jewish voters undoubtedly were a big reason he won 2021. Because the usual Democrat, they get like 70-75% of the Jewish vote. I guarantee you Jon Ossoff more than likely got like 95%. The fact that he was going to be the first Jewish senator of Georgia, yeah, that probably encouraged a bunch of Jewish voters to vote for him. So that's what I think happened in 2021. And that's a big deal because there is actually a significant Jewish population in Georgia. There's roughly 148,000 Jews in Georgia. And if you do basic math, you realize that, oh, wait a minute, Ossoff won by roughly 50,000 votes, and let's just say 100,000 Jews voted in 2021, okay? Or even, let's just say 75,000. If they were 95-5 for Ossoff, that's the entire margin of victory and then some for him back in 21. That's why it's a big deal that now these same voters that voted for him back in 2021, they're saying, screw you, we're not going to vote for you in 2026. As a bipartisan group of leaders in the Atlanta Jewish community, we humbly ask you to consider running for the United States Senate in 2026. Read a private mid-December letter to Brian Kemp from some of the state's major political donors and Jewish community leaders, which was reviewed by the New York Times. Should he decide to run the 2026 election, the letter said, you would find no better friends, more loyal allies, or stronger supporters than us in our community. Yeah, this was supposedly a real letter sent to Brian Kemp from these big donors. Now, listen, does this mean that every single Jewish voter is going to vote for Kemp? No, that's not going to happen. Jewish voters, they've been Democrat voters for a very long time. But the point is, these are Democrats. A large chunk of these people, they are Democrat voters, and they're telling the first Jewish senator in Georgia's history to go F himself. They're saying, screw you, we want Brian Kemp. A lot of these are Democrats, and that's why it's a big deal. Like, if Brian Kemp, who already is a very strong candidate, if he could get the support of major Jewish donors and community leaders in the state, Jon Ossoff's I would say screwed. Because at that point, Brian Kemp, who's already going to outrun someone like David Perdue, Herschel Walker, even Trump by a couple of points, that's already going to happen. I mean, Brian Kemp's very popular. He's beloved in the state. Even a bunch of Democrats, they like him. So not only are you going against a very strong candidate, but now your core voters that voted for you because you're Jewish are saying, we want Brian Kemp. And if he can get that down to like, even if Ossoff wins them 70-30 or whatever, that would be awful for him, because at that point, I don't see how he wins. I mean, if he won these voters like 90-10 back in 21, or even like 80-20, at that point, if it's cut down to 70-30, and these are your core voters, how the hell do you come back from that? I don't think you can. And that's why this is a big deal. We're not talking about a vote block that has like 5 people. No, the Jewish community in Georgia is actually fairly large. There's 148,000 Jewish voters in Georgia. And if Brian Kemp can narrow that margin, like instead of losing them by 80, he loses them by 40 or whatever, that could be the difference between Jon Ossoff barely winning or Brian Kemp winning, which I still think Brian Kemp, even before this, was the clear favorite. But now, if Jon Ossoff is losing these voters, I think he's done. Of course, a lot could change. Like, Brian Kemp, he may not run, which I think he's gonna run. And a lot could change. Maybe he has a big scandal, who knows? But right now, if you're the Democrat Party, how can you look at this and say, yeah, there's nothing wrong here? I mean, the recent polling has Kemp up by like 4 to 5 points, up by 7, and I know Democrats are claiming, oh, it's too early, which, yeah, that's kind of true, but Jon Ossoff is the incumbent. He should have a big advantage over Brian Kemp. Brian Kemp right now is up by 5 to 6 points. Now, will he win by 5 to 6? Maybe not, but even then it's like, okay, if Brian Kemp's at 49% and Jon Ossoff, who again, is the incumbent, he should have a big advantage. He's at like 42%. I don't care how you spin that. That's a disaster. And if that really happens where Republicans, they flip Georgia in 2026, at that point, I don't see how Democrats retake the Senate for like 10 years. Because Republicans more than likely would be at 54, maybe 55 Senate seats after 26, maybe even more. But let's just say 54. Well, at that point, Democrats, they're going to win maybe 1 in a best case scenario in 2028. 2030, they might win a couple back. Maybe they win Pennsylvania. But at the same time, they got to worry about places like Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, Arizona. They have so many states they have to defend. And 2032, yeah, they may flip back Georgia, North Carolina. But you start doing the math and you realize, yeah, this single Senate race could be the difference between a Republican majority for like 10 to 15 years or Democrats possibly retaking the Senate sooner. Again, a lot could change. We don't know what's going to happen in 26, obviously. But right now, with Trump's job approval, with Brian Kemp more than likely running, and now Jon Ossoff losing these core voters, and not just any ordinary core vote. No, we're talking about the Jewish vote. Which, again, for someone that's supposed to be the first senator in Georgia's history to be Jewish, you would think these voters would be voting for you by dictator margins. But they're not. They're saying, screw you, you're full of crap, you lied to us. That's what happened here. That's the main reason. Jon Ossoff screwed these people over. Again, you don't have to agree with these voters on everything, but what happened with these votes, it's like what happened with Muslim voters in 2024. They got shafted by the Democrat Party. It got so bad for Democrats that Donald Trump won a huge chunk of Muslim voters, and he won Dearborn for crying out loud. So he took advantage of that in 2024. And now it looks like Republicans in the state of Georgia, they're doing the same thing. These Jewish voters, they got screwed by Jon Ossoff. They got shafted by him. Right? He's voting against their interests. And now these same voters, they're saying, screw you. You backstabbed us, we're going to support the Republican. We don't care if we're Democrats or not. No, screw you. You backstabbed us, we're going to support Brian Kemp. In fact, we want him to run. We want to encourage him to run for the Senate seat in 2026. I mean, just the fact that Democrats have not learned a damn thing about anything, I mean, seriously, they've learned nothing. And now there's a chance that because of their own incompetence, they're going to be doing way worse with not only Muslim voters, which already is bad enough for Democrats in places like Michigan, but now they could be screwed with Jewish voters. Imagine saying that 5 years ago that not only would the Muslim vote swing right, but even the Jewish vote, hell, against the first senator in Georgia's history to be Jewish. I mean, this is just, you think this is a parody, but no, this is real. This is happening. And now Democrats, I don't know what they do. Because they try to play both sides, and that blew up in their face. And now both demographics are continuing to swing heavy to the right. And Brian Kemp, it looks like, is taking advantage of that because, well, Jon Ossoff, it's clear he's pissed off these voters so much that they want Brian Kemp, the Republican governor, to run. Even though half of these voters, or way more than half, they're all Democrats. Congratulations, Jon Ossoff. I have no clue how you accomplished this, but I don't know how Democrats recover. If this really happens where these Jewish voters, they not only want Brian Kemp to run, but they actually support him in large numbers, I don't know how Jon Ossoff recovers. I know it's a midterm election, a lot could change, it's very low turnout, but I don't know. He barely won 2021, which again was a fluke. I mean, he won the race on a fluke. And now his core vote is leaving him. It's just, you can't make this up. But at this point, the Democrat Party, they have managed to piss off basically every single demographic except white resist liberals. That's the only demographic that they're not losing. Of course, they're going to keep those voters forever. But now they're losing the freaking Jewish vote. Even when they're running a Jewish Democrat, it is unbelievable what's happening in the state of Georgia. But this is why I'm very confident that Republicans, they're probably expanding that majority in 2026. Because if Democrats lose Georgia, they have to win like 4 seats to get to the 50-50. And with the current map, that ain't happening. And who knows, maybe Republicans, they pull off the upset in Michigan, in, I don't know, New Hampshire. A lot could happen. And again, I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but man, Democrats right now, they're looking to have a very rough 2026. But anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.